Today, I want to set myself a bit of a challenge. You see, the good old Shimano Ultegra Groupset is on sale right now in the UK, £1,100. Wow. It is an incredibly brilliant, no-brainer of a deal. But here's my question. Can you buy an Ultegra Groupset and upgrade it to be better and lighter than a Dura Ace Groupset?
No way.
This, for less than half the price of just upgrading to a Dura Ace Groupset? I think it might be possible. For this challenge, we need some rules. So rule number one, it has to be Groupset components. No, if we upgrade to TPU inner tubes or some fancy lightweight tires or whatever it is, has to be a Groupset component. Second rule, it has to be at today's prices available to you as of November 2025 here in the UK. So I'm going to try and evidence all those prices as I go. Near enough, there's some ambiguity, but we'll get pretty close. Rule number three is no selling stuff. This does not assume that you're going to get a piece. You might sell it on eBay for this much, which means that you can put money. No, none of that. This has got to be, you end up with an entire Ultegra Groupset and you're going to buy additional things, which means you get leftover parts. And lastly, it has to be better and lighter than Dura Ace. Now, the reason for this challenge is because I have this fantastic bike to build. This is the Viglia Verticale, their super lightweight climbing bike. And the last time we did one of these on the channel was with the Colnago V5 RS, when Colnago actually challenged us to try and make it as light as possible. And we did, but it was horrible. It was so bad. We changed the crankset out for one of those Seabury things, and the shifting was terrible on it. Completely ruined the really nice smooth shifting that you get with Shimano stuff. And of course, we upgraded those brakes to Lewis brakes, and they were just terrible. This time, I don't want to fall into that trap. I'm going to have to make it better and at least as light as a standard Shimano Dura Ace. So with that all in mind, let's start with some no-brainer. What are we not going to change? What is just not worth upgrading? And the easy one to say is levers. This is a Shimano Ultegra lever. You put this next to a Dura Ace one and there is virtually no difference. There's about 20 grams per lever, and this is the most expensive part of a Groupset. It's also one of the most vulnerable. It's the bit that we see broken in crashes most often. So racers love the Ultegra spec ones. Is a little bit cheaper, and the Dura Ace offers no distinct advantage. Well, okay, there's a few, but very minimal. Same goes with the front mech, to be honest. There's virtually no difference between an Ultegra and a Dura Ace front mech. Not worth upgrading. In fact, if you ever break it, smash it, you need to save a few quid, just get an Ultegra one. It'll work perfectly well. So, next up, one that might surprise you is the crankset. I don't intend changing the crankset. I did think about it. I thought, well, what if we take this and we get some of those chain rings that we saw at the Miike factory, you know, maybe the carbon chain rings. The reality is it doesn't make any difference. We saw that from the Seabury one. They're essentially an aluminium plate with a carbon sticker on it. Okay, I know I got into trouble calling it a carbon sticker. All right, it's a very, very paper thin carbon laminate on top of a aluminium chainring. It's not a carbon chainring. It doesn't make any difference. And looking at the weight, it's hardly anything in it. It really isn't something considerably worth upgrading. I know you might argue stiffness, but really, has anyone ever had a problem with the stiffness of their chainrings? So what might surprise you is the weight difference of this. This is a big chunky thing, and it's the thing that everyone wants to upgrade. But the reality is there's hardly any difference. Now the two I'm about to weigh, they're not exactly like for like. There's a little bit of crank length difference and some gear ratio difference, but 711 grams there for Ultegra, and our Dura Ace one, 689. There's normally about 20 grams difference. There really is nothing in it, and these are like £1,000. Those Seabury ones that we got, you know, by the time we'd paid all the import duties and stuff, they were about £1,000 landed cost. Absolutely not worth it. So we are not changing those. We're going to keep with the nice silky smooth shifting that Shimano is famous for. We don't want to make it any worse. So what are we going to change? I can hear you all screaming at the computer. Well, the cassette is the obvious one. This is a Shimano Ultegra cassette. this is our best-selling model. This is the 11 to 34, yet we live somewhere hilly. This is definitely the one that most of our customers go for. And if you get the Dura Ace version of this, it's about 92 grams lighter, and I can find it online right now. Well, if you really hunt around, a little bit cheaper than this, but £170 seems like a pretty reasonable place to start. So 92 grams saved and £170 spent. So with that in mind, I should actually say, what is our target actually? Because the price difference of this, like I said, is like £1,100. So we are giving ourselves a sort of £550 budget. And what's the weight difference? Well, the weight difference is about 270 grams between the two. So we've got to somehow find 270 grams without spending more than £550. Right, so with that all said, what other little upgrade can we do? Well, this is the next easy one. This is the Shimano Dura Ace chain, the 9100 series, 12 speed. It's about £45 online right now, and it'll save you about 10 grams. Basically, it's got hollow pins in there. It's an easy upgrade, relatively cheap, so I think worth doing. Onto the meaty stuff, and first of all is the Shimano Ultegra brake caliper. Now, in its current form, without any brake pads in there and no brake adapter, this is going to only work on 140mm rotors on the rear. This is coming in at 108 grams. Pretty beefy actually. Now the Dura Ace one doesn't have this split, so the Ultegra one is made in two parts and bolted together. The Dura Ace one is machined out of one solid bit, and then you've got that little cover on this side here, so they go in with the big drill through, whereas the Ultegra one is split in half and it's a little bit heavier, well, quite a bit heavier actually. But we're not going to upgrade this to the Dura Ace. Instead, we're going to go for the Hope. So the Hope make this, the RX4. Now, this is a 4-pot caliper, and also it's already made for 160mm rotors, so you don't have to add an adapter. So this comes in at 87 grams, already lighter for 4 pots and no adapter. So by the time you put, you know, the Ultegra one on there and an adapter and a couple of bolts on there, we are getting pretty heavy. Now, Hope do actually make a 2-pot version of this, which is lighter again, mostly because you don't have to use the bigger brake pads. But we did say we want to make it lighter and better, and the 4 pots are definitely going to hit that bill. And this, after all, is going to be a climbing bike, and what goes up must come down. And I don't want to fall into that trap that we did with the V5 RS, where we completely compromise our braking performance. Want good brakes. So if you shop around online right now, I can find these for £204 for a pair. So that's the back one with 160mm straight and the front one with the flat mount adapter built into the caliper. And that's going to save us about 82 grams by the time you factor in all the mounts and the bolts and everything else. So nice little upgrade there. Now, next up is brake rotors. Now, there is nothing in between the Shimano Ultegra rotor and the Dura Ace rotor. They are, you know, essentially the same weight, but there are some brake rotors out there that are significantly lighter. Yes, there are some fancy carbon ones. We're not going to go that fancy, but Galfer make a rotor. Pretty reasonable price. And again, if you shop around online, we found them at £110 for a pair of rotors. RRP is around 70, but £110 for the pair. And that's going to save us about 68 grams of weight for £110. We can actually go for the Galfer pads as well. So the Galfer pads, one are a little bit lighter than the standard Shimano ones, but they also do a lighter version of the Hope RX4. They're going to cost about £28 and save us about 20 grams, like 10 grams per end. So good little upgrade. I think it's definitely worth doing. Probably just going to use these for now, but it should be an easy one if we're adding rotors. Get the Galfer pads as well. Now, one more thing, my favorite subject, and that is bottom bracket. Now, this bike, luckily, is already set up for BB86, which means that you can use these fantastic, super lightweight bottom brackets. I mean, like one side is 25 grams. It's already pretty light, but the Dura Ace one does save about 12 grams over the Ultegra one, and you do get slightly better bearings in there as well. So this is actually a pretty good upgrade. You cannot get anything lighter than this. You know, all those fancy bearings out there, they're all way in heavier than this nice standard Dura Ace bottom bracket. And it's about £35 if you shop around, £45 worst case scenario. So where does that leave us? What is our tally? Depending on what your starting price was for Ultegra and Dura Ace, we are about there, and we're saved about 13 grams. So we're 13 grams lighter, and I think that with these brake calipers and the Galfer discs and the Galfer pads, we've got a significantly better braking than probably even Dura Ace performs at. So I think I've hit it, but if you want to see us actually build this onto a bike and see if it actually performs like I think it will, and whether we did really save that weight, subscribe to the channel, because the next part of the video, we're going to buy all these components in and get building onto this frame and take it out for a test ride. This is going to be part of our test fleet that if you guys like it, you can come here and ride it, take it for a ride up in the Lake District. Okay, the next part of this video has got to be, but why don't we just spend the extra money on the next tier group set or something better? Why have we got to do all these upgrades? Well, here's the crazy thing. If you look at the tiers of electronic group sets right now, it gets really weird. So right at the very bottom of the range, essentially, is Shimano 105. Now, that is coming in at around 800 to 900 pounds. Fantastic group set. The cassette's a bit heavy, but brilliant little buy. But it's only a little bit cheaper than Ultegra, which is significantly better. The only reason to go for 105 really is if you want that bigger, more durable cassette. Now, what have SRAM got here? Like SRAM Apex right now, I can only find for about £1,050. Now, any day I would take Ultegra over SRAM Apex. Now, there has been a bit of a price drop on the new SRAM Rival E1 series, the ones with the better lever ergonomics, but it's still slightly more expensive than the Ultegra group set. You have to look around a little bit, because sometimes the group sets aren't sold with all the parts. They've got way more gear ratio options, they've got power meter options as well, so you have to sort of dig into the detail a bit more when you're shopping around for a SRAM group set. But it's coming in more expensive. The only sort of redeeming factor of that Rival group set is probably the lever ergonomics. Other than that, it's just heavy. It's a really, really heavy group set. And then beyond this, what is there? Some legacy SRAM Force D1 out there in the market right now at pretty reasonable prices. But again, why would you choose that over, you know, our favorite Ultegra? And then you have SRAM Force E1, the new one that was released a little while ago. Now, prices have been coming down since it's launched, but it's still pretty high. It's around the £1,800 mark. I did glimpse a retailer selling it a bit below that. You have to, again, dig into the details, because SRAM Force sell like an upgrade kit where you don't get the crankset, you don't get the chain, you don't get the cassette. So look into the detail. It's still around £2,000, which means it competes more with Dura Ace. So really, the next upgrade is Dura Ace, our Force E1, around that £2,000 price point. Now then, you could make an argument. I think Dura Ace is slightly lighter. I personally quite like SRAM Force. I like the lever ergonomics, I like the gear ratio options, I like the battery charging. You know, there's a case to be made there. If SRAM Force cassette was a little bit lighter, it'd be a bit simpler to make. Beyond that, SRAM Red, now on the market for a couple of years, the prices have been coming down. It's still around £3,000 for the SRAM Red group set. And then really above that, we've only really got Campagnolo Super Record, the 13 speed. And yeah, okay, it's got that IP69K rating. You can pressure wash the hell out of that and it's going to be okay. It is a beautiful piece of kit. It's absolutely stunning. And of course, they just came out with the ultra version, like read the room, Campagnolo. We all desperately needed you and wanted you to bring out something cheaper, and instead you just went ballistic with it. So there we go. For around £1,000, you just can't beat this. And it's to get the next performance level up. I think I've shown in this video that you might as well upgrade this rather than go for this for that sort of money. Anyway, I want to hand it over to you guys, because cycling market is gigantic, and I reckon there's knowledge out there that I don't know about. What else would you swap out for? The only thing that I thought of additional is probably the rear mech. And I did actually look into changing the cage. So the Dura Ace cage on this comes with like a carbony resin thing with some better jockey wheels, but it was going to save about 12 grams and cost about £150, but that's pushing it a little bit. Maybe there is an aftermarket one that I haven't come across yet that might do something lighter and better and still fit within our budget. Let me know. I'm really keen to hear what you've got to say. And if you're keen on learning more about the Villia Verticale when we build it all up, and what's the end weight going to be, and can we build it to be better than that Colnago V5 RS, well, subscribe to the channel, find out. Hopefully that review will be out sometime before Christmas. All right, thanks for watching. As always, get down in the comments. Let me know what you think.